A new Hungarian film is getting a lot of buzz and a lot of awards attention. It's called Son of Saul, and it's unlike any Holocaust movie you've ever heard of or seen, and it's absolutely worth your time. I spoke to director László Nemes and star of the film, Géza Röhrig, who, between the two of them, really created this exceptional, deep, intense, gorgeous film that is just unlike anything you've ever seen. Check out my interview. Okay, so is it true it was 7 years that it took you to finish writing?
So, no, it took me a few years to write it, 10 years from the inception to the end of the film.
And you wrote it in France?
We started in Hungary, and we finished it in France.
And in what ways did it change from starting it, or you always had it crafted and
It
just
was an
building on it?
organic process. I mean, first we read the journals of the Sonderkommandos, and that was our main focus. And then we also read testimonies by surviving members of the Sonderkommandos, and that gave us also a lot of information. And then we didn't, there's a point when you have to stop and you start writing, and we both have backgrounds in history, so we're not uncomfortable with writing a historical piece. All the more that we didn't want to be a historical drama, so we started writing, and then I think the story is very simple. So it's very straightforward. I think what the main evolution of the script was that we had more background stories, we had more backstories in the film, especially with some members of the Sonderkommandos reflecting on their past stories and the lives before the camp and outside the camp. And we just during the rehearsal period, the preparation, it just became evident that this film is getting rid of all the backstories. I understood later, because these people have no past, they only have a present. So
no future, no
there's
past.
nothing outside the camp, and that was something very important to me.
And you captured that perfectly. I really, by the way, I love this movie. But I especially think it's powerful. And I want to say, because this is all about getting people to see it, because it really is worth seeing, is that it's not as dark as people would expect it to be. I think people are used to Holocaust movies that are very hard to watch because they're trying to recreate something that's impossible to imagine unless you were there. And what you captured in this film is the fact that it's just the moment to moment to moment to moment.
Yeah.
And that is really what this story is.
Well, that's all that there is, and all that we can represent in an honest way. I think the attempts at representing the Holocaust in a all-encompassing way have to fail, because you cannot have we cannot have a full view of that. We have to follow one individual. That's the only thing that we can represent in an honest way, is a face.
And the character that you play, Saul, the best thing about it is that he represents, you wake up, you go to bed alone, you die alone, and what you do in between the time that you're awake is what defines you. And he is making a choice, a very, I think, heroic choice, but it's very personal to him. He's trying to be heroic the only way he knows how. How did you get into being that person?
It took some time. I mean, the script was very good, very powerful, but still, I had to read a lot. So I personal accounts of the Sonderkommando. I had no chance, unfortunately. I tried to move mountains to meet one, and there is a handful former Sonderkommandos still alive, but I wasn't able to locate any of them and meet them in person before the shooting. So I was relying on literature. We had a great crew, László and cinematographer Mátyás Erdély as well. We talked over lots of the possible problem areas. But of course, preparing for this role was a lonely undertaking, no question, especially because I live in New York. So László and Mátyás, after one point, just couldn't be really around me, and I had a month to go. I had to lose weight, and more importantly, I had to get ready myself mentally for the role. And at one point, I recognized one thing, and I made that connection, and I think that made all the required change for me to kind of catapult me into the role, is that I was 4 years old when I lost my dad, and my uncle made a decision, I heard to forgive me until now, is that I couldn't be there at his funeral. And I understand he wanted to protect me. I was 4 years old, so 4 years old shouldn't be there. But he didn't have that sort of a closure with my father. The 4 years old can't really understand. It didn't make much sense to me. Where is he? And why can't I be there with him? So in some ways, even though I'm kind of attempting to bury a boy in the movie, in some way it was also 44 years after the events for me, some sort of farewell from my father as well, trying to bury him. So many things. I felt that after a certain point, the issue was not how to become Saul, the issue is how to let it go and to kind of adjust back to my everyday life afterwards.
And you carry him with you, you have to after that work.
I have to. There was a certain melancholy, after the shooting, when I was back in New York and I hadn't seen the movie yet. And I kind of missed him. And as pervert it sounds, I kind of missed the camp as well, the set. And I think the way I explained this to myself, because all the horrors and the hell of this place, was one thing, probably only one thing, was very attractive of such an experience, any sort of concentration camp, and that is that in our lives, unessential factors like love, wealth, connections, and all these things, they matter a whole lot. They advance you in your career. And that's really unfair, because it's not by merit who is looking fine and who is having bad skin or short, and who is connected and who is rich. And there's one thing, that these type of things did not matter one bit in the camp. It was really all about who you were and what your character was made out of. And I kind of missed that. There was a certain almost fairness to it. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So it felt strange to be back in 2015 and see people throwing food into the garbage can, let's say. It was just shocking. And of course time took its own work again, and I'm kind of like, I don't feel that as much as I did right after the shooting, but I don't think it will ever kind of quiet down. I still believe that any genocide, not just the Holocaust, somehow reveals something very important about the full potentiality of human evil. And it leaves me with the question is that, yes, the world might become a better place, but people don't get better in it.
And everything is individual choice. Every single thing is individual choice.
Right, and Saul made a choice,
In a weird way, he's like this action hero who really has one thing that he wants. And I've never been so connected to a character wanting, whether he survives or not, wanting for his task to be achieved. And that, I think, is what's so great about having it be so the point of view coming from him.
Tu, amigo jest. Musty. Ratujcie. A Stein?
Greek tragedies, you have the main character, really wanting something, one thing, So I think it's before action films.
Many times.
But who's reading in this world?
Oh yeah, who's reading?
And it's hard to make a Greek tragedy on movie.
And it's in Greek anyway.
But this is something that actually will appeal to people in a way that, it doesn't even sneak up on you. It's almost immediate, the connection you have with Saul and your desire for him to get what he needs and what he wants.
I think it's much more exciting than the usual, and big entertainment films. To be frank, because it just it gives the audience the possibility of using their imagination. It's there's a journey. You don't know at the beginning what's going to be at the end. Even at the beginning of one scene, you don't know what's going to be at the end of the scene, because also in the camp you don't know what's going to happen next. So there's some kind of a journey that might be interesting, and I never see the difference between art and entertainment. For me, good art is entertainment, and good entertainment is art.
Yes.
And Shakespeare knows that, and people from very popular backgrounds were there, and having a very visceral connection to the material, and I don't. That's something very, 20th century. I don't know from what period, but it's in some kind of, it must be someone's interest in having this dichotomy to making excuse to make bad art and bad entertainment.
Besides Shakespeare, I think another good example would be Charlie Chaplin. Extremely entertaining, but no one can deny it, that it's absolute high art, especially if talking about
and melancholy.
Holocaust, right? The Dictator by Chaplin, it's all about Hitler, and it's done in such a brave, courageous way.
And there isn't a lot of, Saul does not talk a lot, because, in this environment, talk is superfluous. It has no real purpose beyond getting...
Right.
I think the fact that in every moment he's risking his life. Every choice he makes is a life-risking choice. Every single thing he does.
Yeah.
So it is really has a tenuous, it's very tension-filled. Can you talk a little bit about the sound in the movie? Because I think it's like playing the role of everything that your imagination is experiencing beyond the connection to Saul. So you have the connection to Saul, and then you have this cacophony of things you don't know what are happening, but
that's reflecting the individual experience within the camp, that the impossibility to have access to the information that you need. So after a while you have to give up. So in a way that reflects that, and the whole strategy of the sound of having these layers, and you cannot, as a viewer, identify the sources of the sounds. Actually, reflect that position of the individual. So we knew that it would be we would need a lot of sound, that a lot of layers would have to be inserted, layers of human voices especially. So to have this babel of languages and human voices around, and that the sound is always there to give much more than the picture. So there's a strange conflict between the two, and that exists throughout the film, and I think that's also something very that's something people don't really have a clear vision of, is the individual experience of the camp, and we wanted to immerse the viewer in the camp, and with all the limitation that it supposes. So that's something completely different from the usual approach to the Holocaust, and this kind of external, remote point of view, this kind of jumping around point of view, always allowing the viewer to escape. And we didn't want this external point of view. We wanted the viewer to accompany the main character on this journey.
And we do, for sure.
May I return just for a second about this whole entertaining value of the movie? I think one of the secrets of Son of Saul is that, you see, oftentimes you get a message from a certain movie and it's somehow over-defined. You know, it's too obvious. So I think one thing that we attempted to do is not to make Saul a hero or an anti-hero. You know, his character and his behavior, I think, splits the audience. People woke up to me after the screening angry, like what this guy wanted to do? It's impractical. What difference does it make to bury one boy when there are thousands of boys being gassed and burned every day? What's the point? They are really angry. It doesn't serve a purpose. He's an idiot. And then other people come, and in front of me, I don't even have to intervene. In front of me, the other, kind of audience member, he defends Saul, and he says, you don't get it. There's more than survival. He's revolting on his own. He lives in his inner reality. This is the beauty of the movie. He's great. He's our last hope. And so that's the type of balance. I think one of the great things about Saul's behavior is that it's really up to you. If you're gonna support his choice of action, or you're gonna say, like, this guy is frankly a fool, what is he doing? He's really jeopardizing the revolt. He should be with the other members of the Sonderkommando preparing. To me personally, he's God's last witness. I find a lot of hope in his behavior.
Yes. Well, I love that there were two acts of heroism happening at the same time that were very different. Yeah. One, the revolt of October 7th, and at the same time as that's happening, your personal revolt and your choices that are as heroic as this bigger revolt. And then it makes it a little anti-heroic because he's, in his choice, he's making very individual, can be seen as selfish or very selfless depending on your perspective, and that's what makes it a more complex story. I did want to mention that you have a book coming out, hopefully, yeah?
Yeah, hopefully next year, a short story book in English is coming.
And what's it going to be called in English?
Good question.
We don't know yet.
It's a work in progress.
And do you have yet what you're planning to do next, or?
Oh yeah, I have a film in before World War I in Budapest, and it's the story of a young woman in that end of civilization kind of world.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
And when is it gonna? Have you started filming, or you?
No, we're writing.
Oh, you're writing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good.
It takes time to write.
Yes, and do all of the process from beginning to end. People need to see Son of Saul, and hopefully it will win more awards. That would be nice.
Thank you.
I know we voted you best film for WAFCA, Washington Film Critics Association, gave you best foreign film.
Thank you.
And I did nominate you for best actor, but lots of people on the list. What can you do? And just people need to see the film. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for the holocaust.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna eat it right now.
Yeah. Oh. I genuinely hope that not only will Son of Saul get nominated for an Oscar, but will win at least Best Foreign Film Academy Award. That would be wonderful and deserved. And I also hope that you will support this film and watch it and be as moved by it as I was. For Cinema Siren, I'm Leslie Colmel.